So this is, I go to the, then I go to the Zoom thing?
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm. And just make sure that you mute and turn off your sound so that it doesn't mess with the audio here.
Turn off what?
You'll need to mute yourself and then turn off the sound on the video there so that it doesn't.
Because otherwise you get feedback.
Yeah, otherwise we'll hear this echo.
It doesn't even show that I got any audio.
Yeah. Perfect. We're good to go?
Yeah, we're good.
Great. Thank you for joining me. Like that.
And audio down. There you go. You're
Perfect.
good. And then if you want chat, there's chatting right there. All right? You're welcome.
Welcome. Well, thanks for joining me in person. It's so much easier to talk to people face to face. And if you're on Facebook, on Facebook or Zoom land out there, I really would appreciate it if you can unmute yourself and ask questions, because it definitely makes it helpful to have the more participation as most participation as possible. But thank you for welcoming me here at Denton. I came all the way from Los Angeles. I have family that live here in the Denton area. Both my parents, my daughter, my two brothers all live here in Denton. So that's what brings me. I also have one of your teammates here at the Denton office, David Irwin, is a new agent in the office, and he's part of my expansion team here in the Denton office. So this is just kind of my way of giving back. You know, I love teaching. I teach at multiple different offices in the Los Angeles area. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then I'd love to find out a little bit about you guys, because I know we have probably varying number of years in the business, varying number, amounts of production, and we're all getting our business probably different ways, and it's great to kind of hear, what's in the room, at how you guys are getting your business now. So I've been with Keller Williams for 16 years. Haven't worked at any other franchise. This is my only home, and so I live and breathe Keller Williams. Sold 36 homes my first year, and I came out of the auto industry, so I had a little bit of sales background, I guess you'd say. Anybody bought a car? Yeah. You guys bought a car? Yeah, so I was the guy at the end of the transaction that did your paperwork, and I used to say my job was to spend 30 minutes or less, do your paperwork, and take the last $2,000 in your pocket. So it was a really tough business. It was a very now business, and we all know real estate is not that, right? Real estate is a long-term nurture game, right? I've just sold a home recently to a client that I still am in production, by the way. 7 years ago, I met him at an open house, and just finally ended up, doing a piece of business with him. So I've averaged about 35 to 37 homes a year, every year for the last 16 years. I've capped every year. I've been a productivity coach. I was just recently a team leader. I stopped being a team leader September 1. Came out of that after about a year and had 0 in my pipeline, which because I wasn't prospecting for that year, and came out September 1, and in the fourth quarter of last year, I sold 12 homes in the fourth quarter. So I'm a prospector, so what we're going to talk about today is the 4 dimensions of farming, which prospecting is definitely one of those. Not afraid to pick up the phone. Closed over $250 million in my career. So a little bit about me. I'd like to hear, let's start with the people in the room, and then we can go to the people in Zoom. If you could just really quick say what your primary 1 or 2 sources of business, maybe what kind of volume you did last year, and anything else you care to share. You want to start?
Sure. I'm Lauren Swanson. I'm a working mom of 3 boys, 5, 3, and 11 months old. So I've got my big wife for years, only here at KW. They were nice enough to give me Rookie of the Year my first year.
Oh, congratulations. What did you have to do to earn that? What did you do for business?
I almost capped.
Oh, okay. Well, that's business. Yeah.
So I can't remember how many transactions it was.
Okay.
I was just shy of capping, and then I was just shy of capping again my second year. So my goal this year is definitely cap.
Are you a farmer now?
As far as farming?
Yeah, do you farm now?
I'm not consistent about it. So
okay.
I sent mail a couple times up to my neighborhood, but I want to find the right neighborhood to focus on. be consistent about it. My fear has been spending money, so I
Perfect.
want to get rid of that fear and
Yeah.
invest in myself. So,
Perfect. Thank you for coming.
yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I was licensed in November of 2019,
Okay.
and then COVID hit, so my first year was a little rough. I did have like 7 transactions, most of them leases.
Okay.
So I'm really just here to soak it all in and
Yep.
learn from the best.
Not a farmer yet?
No,
Okay.
I want to know how to do this.
Perfect. Perfect.
Patty Barron, I've been in real estate and with Keller Williams the entire time since 2003. Solo agent by choice. I get stymied by technology, as you can already tell. I'm also in the wind down of my career at age 78, so
Yeah.
I'm not out to bust anybody's balls.
Yeah.
You know, but I do like to stay in touch with what's relevant out there, and for whatever I can latch onto and work at and get some results out of it, I'm willing to do. But I'm very inconsistent about
Okay.
farming, very.
Well, farming's simple but not easy, right? That's what they say.
And I've done some farming, but there's always a better way to, you know, to do it. So
Cool.
that's why I'm here.
Well, very cool. Thank you for coming. And you can be tech challenged, and there's some people that are tech handicapped, right? So at least you're tech challenged, right? So it means you're picking it up. So how about in Facebook, Facebook, and as well as Zoom? Anybody out there want to care to share a little bit about whether you're a farmer or what type of volume you've done? No, we got a lot of names there without cameras on, so it's kind of hard.
Johanna does. Johanna wants to share. Johanna and Joel do.
Hi. We are Best License Team. I have been in real estate for almost 3 years, and Joel just started with me, and we're husband and wife team. We just moved over to Keller Williams. We do a lot of digital farming through Facebook
Okay.
groups.
Okay, very cool. So you're in the fourth dimension there, using technology to gain a competitive advantage in your farm.
Awesome. I only use technology,
You
and so I
only-
am deficit in the non-tech avenues for sure.
So you'll be able to learn something in the other three dimensions, right?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
Very cool. Anybody else want to share?
I'm with Johanna. I do the same thing. I only use technology to farm.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you for coming and joining us. Anybody else? Great. Well, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to introduce myself. I'm Pam Taranis. I have been in the business almost 20 years. I am not real techie, so I do all my business by referral.
Well, great. So have you considered farming? Is this something you're interested in pulling the trigger on?
Well, I do mail to my people, and I do sometimes email to my people, but I'm not as consistent about it. So
Okay.
I'm here to learn.
Well, the reason I started farming was I wanted exercise. That was actually my reason for starting farming. So I don't know if there's anybody out there that wants to get a little extra exercise, but that was my reason. So I just want to say, Jesse, thank you for joining us. You have COVID and you joined us, and you look amazing, by the way.
Yeah, this is what you get, guys. This is it. Thanks for letting me join.
Well, we would have understood if you decided to just take the day off and just relax, you know? So great. Anybody else care to share?
Hi, I'm Tiara.
Hi,
I just
Tiara.
got my license in December of last year, so I don't know anything about farming, and I really like to learn.
Great. Well, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining us. So it's probably, I would say farming is one of the, well, a lot of people don't understand the difference between farming and door knocking. So we're going to talk about that, because door knocking is one dimension of the farming process. And I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and they're like, we talk about farming, but then they go into just door knocking, and they're door knocking random neighborhoods, which is a completely different thing, right? So anybody else care to share? No? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Perfect. So let's get into it. What is real estate farming? Farming is geographic farming involved. So there's different types of farming, right? You could have a cultural farm, which maybe you're going after, you know, like for instance, in LA, we have a huge Asian community. And if I was Asian, maybe I would go after, if I spoke their language, maybe I would go after that type of farming. We're talking about geographic farming. So that's taking a certain block of homes on a map, and we're going to talk about how you pick that block of homes. We're going to also talk about, some things you might consider, before picking it. But taking that geographic farming involves targeting your marketing efforts to a specific area or neighborhood consistently. I think I heard somebody mention I was inconsistent, right? And that's probably the one thing you want to be aware of when you're farming, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. Anybody ran a marathon before? So like you could run 100 yards. Most people could run 100 yards pretty easily. But just because you can run 100 yards doesn't mean you can go out and run a marathon, right? So there's some things you definitely need to consider. So I came up with the 4 dimensions of farming. I thought it was just something that, we think about. Some people think 2-dimensionally. So if I can get you to think 3-dimensionally, now even 4-dimensionally, it's like, you imagine a square. A square looks like a square, but when you see it on all sides of that square, it actually gets you more intentional and you can be more effective, which definitely helps in the long game. So my 4 dimensions of farming are door knocking the farm, and when you door knock, you are door dropping a piece of marketing material as well. Now, some people do this a little bit differently. Some people will actually hire a door dropper. There are people out there that you pay them and they'll just go house to house and they'll just drop your door knocking, your marketing piece. I personally didn't do that because I tried it once and found out that not all my marketing pieces were getting delivered. About people finding all their marketing in the trash and not delivered, and they paid somebody to do that. So I'm already out there door knocking, house to house, which is the whole point. A big point of it's why it's the first dimension, is that face-to-face interaction. So who makes contacts in their business? Anybody know what a contact is? If you're out there in Zoom land and want to share, unmute yourself. Hey, David, how you doing? Come on in. A contact is a face-to-face or voice-to-voice conversation about real estate, or if you ask for a referral. So the contacts in your business are literally the gasoline that you put in your car. If you don't have gas in your car, how far do you get? You don't get very far, right? So a lot of people have a phobia about the phone. So farming is great because it gets you out of the office and out into the street and talking to people. That's the whole point of farming. The direct mail piece, which is one of the dimensions of farming, what do you think the purpose of that is?
For them to recall you.
Yeah, to get your phone to ring, right? But ultimately, what's the real intention is to have another contact, right? Have another conversation. So all 4 dimensions are designed around you getting more contacts. So if you don't love the phone, then supplement your business with farming, because it's going to get you out there talking to people. I know a new agent that told me she's getting contacts. I'm like, where are you getting all the contacts? She's like, well, I go to Walmart and I literally sit out in front of Walmart and I hand out my card. And I, give her a pat on the back for doing that. Probably not the most effective way of spending your time, but she was getting a lot of contacts, right? So on average, you can knock on about 30 doors an hour. And that doesn't mean you're sprinting from house to house. That's taking the time between houses, using a little bit of technology, which is in the 4th dimension. An app that I use is called Knockwise, and it's specifically designed for farming, and it's actually designed by a farmer. A real estate agent, that's a farmer. And so I'll share the web address for Knockwise later on in the presentation. But there are various apps that you get from your title company. I've tested several of them. They're free, but they don't work very well in the field. Like it slows you down actually going from house to house. Where Knockwise, you do pay for it, but it's a superior app in my opinion. So door knocking being the first dimension, door dropping while you're door knocking. That way you save the money and not have to pay somebody to do it, and it's getting done because you're doing it yourself, right? The second dimension is the monthly direct mail piece. So we'll talk about some things. My presentation here is going to kind of bounce around between all 4 dimensions. So I'll try to make sure you understand which dimension that falls in. But you guys could probably also come up with some things that I haven't even thought about that, and to say, okay, well, which dimension does this fall into? Is it part of something I should be doing while door knocking, or is it something that should be included in my direct mail piece? So the third dimension is the prospecting part, acquiring phone numbers and calling the farm. So I'm going to share with you some places you can get those phone numbers and some ways that you can automate the process and make your prospecting more efficient. Because a high efficiency, David hears me say this all the time, high efficiency is 10 to 12 contacts an hour. So that's talking to 10 to 12 people an hour. So you can gauge yourself based upon how good you are. I already told you that you can probably walk about 30 doors per hour. So if you go to 30 doors and you find 10 people that are home, then that's a pretty good efficiency, right? A low efficiency is 5 to 6 contacts an hour. So if you're tracking your lead generation now, which you should be, and you're starting to gauge, well, where am I at on my own conversations every day? How many am I having? How long did I actually prospect for? And what is my efficiency? That's something you should definitely look at. Give you an idea. Those numbers come right out of Bold, by the way, if you've ever taken Bold. I've taken Bold 7 times. It's something that you definitely want to keep doing and doing and doing. The fourth dimension is using tech and events to gain a competitive advantage. Anybody farm now in the group consistently and effectively, other than we've got a couple of digital farmers, but how about traditional farming? Does anybody do it now and that's here?
I do it, but I'm inconsistent about it.
Okay. So have you ever done an event in your farm? No? Okay. I like one, I rented a ice cream truck. Put a vinyl banner on it, paid the guy for the couple hours, and just handed out ice cream. So I got to meet a lot of people that way. And I know people that we don't get a lot of snow in Los Angeles, so they have a park in their farm, and they had snow shipped in, and they brought vendors in, and they invited food trucks, and it's become an annual thing in their farm. So that's just a couple ideas on events.
Did your neighborhood have an HOA that you did that in?
Yeah, we have tons of HOAs. So getting connected with the HOA is a great way to use that. I would say that would fall kind of in the fourth dimension. My farm does have an HOA. So, but yeah, we do have a lot of HOAs. Do you guys have a lot of those out here now?
Yeah.
I hear California's coming to Dallas. Is that what?
You ask permission, not forgiveness. You get with the HOA first before your event.
So in my farm, the HOA doesn't own the park. The city owns the park. So as long as I get a permit from the city, I'm fine to do that in the park. Now, if your park is owned by the HOA, you absolutely would probably need to get permission. But one of the things that I teach in this is you definitely, if your home isn't, as your community is in an HOA, reaching out and getting to know the board members and getting to know the president and coming to the meetings. Now, some HOAs, you're required to live in the community to be at the meetings. So they have different, some communities have their own Facebook community page, right? That doesn't mean you can't start your own, but you can't go into the HOA managed one and solicit business. Some of them have rules, right? So yeah, HOA does add a layer of things that you need to look into. You don't want to upset neighbors. Your whole idea is to build relationships with the neighbors, right? But that's a great point.
Well, park's a great idea. I mean, I was concerned about having it in the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, the park in my community is in my neighborhood, but it's just owned by the city, not owned by the HOA. So we drove by David's potential farm yesterday, and I drove through it. I didn't see any parking there, but it's not gated, so that's good. Could you farm a gated community? You could, but you're not going to be able to do all 4 dimensions, right? There's going to be some limitations. A lot of people think that just mailing to a farm is enough. It's not enough in most cases. I mean, I'm sure there are probably some areas that you could get some business, but it wouldn't take the whole. But I know people, and I'm going to use a case study here. of a gal that I'm very close with, but I know another gentleman that has farmed for 20 plus years in one community, and he has some neighborhoods that he's tested by not door knocking and just mailing, and doesn't get any business out of that area. So he's tested that. Any questions so far? No? So picking a farm, let's talk about that first. So there may be some other factors here. If you know of any, please share them.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. I actually
No
did
problem,
have
Laurel.
a question. Does anybody utilize Nextdoor to
Yes.
advertise?
Yeah, Nextdoor is a great tool for a farm. Nextdoor, and I do use Nextdoor. Now, if you don't live in the farm, you can't be a member of that neighborhood. But if you're a sponsor, a business sponsor, they do give you the ability to advertise to that neighborhood. And they typically have more than one agent, and it kind of goes on a round robin. But that is definitely using technology to gain a competitive advantage. And everybody seems to be on Nextdoor these days. Anybody using it now? I don't know if we have any farmers in here. I don't think anybody's said that. I actually got close enough and built a relationship with one of the homeowners, and he was like, hey, you know what? I'll set up an account and put your email address on there. It'll be in my name, and that way you can kind of see what's going on in the neighborhood. So I have, in my farm, I have, being a sponsored, I get emails from his account, so I see everything that's going on in that neighborhood. So that's a great thing. So, but 5 factors in picking the farm: location. So when you're considering location, I say make it really convenient. I think the first place you should look is close to your home or close to your office. If you are like David, where he drives in, I suggest that he do it closer to his home where he's going to be living, because you want to make it super convenient. Depending upon the number, which is second thing, count, you're going to figure out how many homes each week that you need to knock. So for me, I have 1,100 homes in my farm, or just under 1,100 homes. And so that means I have to knock on 110 doors, which if I'm giving myself 3 days in my schedule to do that, that's pretty easy. If it's 30 doors an hour, then I can knock that down in 3 days. And so that's why I chose to go that number. I think most productivity coaches would suggest you start out with somewhere in the 500 to 700 range. I think you're at what? Just 600? Just under, just right around 600. So perfect. Yes. And the way you find that is, somebody mentioned Remine. That's one way. David introduced me to that, actually. I personally use Dynamic Farm. There are multiple different ways of figuring out how many homes are in a certain neighborhood. I'm going to use you as an example just because we just did this. But, he did a big swath based upon what he knew of the area. And when we actually looked at it, it was a couple thousand homes. It was like 2,500 homes, right? So we had to then chunk it down. There was probably also some gated communities in that original chunk. So you just draw a polygon on a map based upon the streets, using the streets as the boundaries, and you kind of look at it. Well, how many homes in this neighborhood? How many? And then you also probably have, just like we have in Los Angeles, where you might have single family homes, then a condo community, right? So I wouldn't suggest a condo community. Some people do pick a condo community as a farm because they're thinking people are going to be moving up. A lot of move up buyers, right? They start out in a condo. Maybe they're renting in that condo. Maybe they bought in that condo area. So they have a condo complex as part of their farm, okay? And so I actually did that. I have a farm that's based upon an average sale price of about $1 million. And I also went and found a place that was townhomes, because it's not a condo complex where I have to go up and down stairs to knock on doors. It's not gated. So there was some other things that I took in consideration. So location is important, make it convenient. Count is important. Think about the size. You don't want to take on something that's too big that you're not going to be able to manage, Because remember, what was the first slide I shared with you? What is farming? Farming is part of the farming definition is consistency. So if you go out the gate and you pick too many homes, you're not going to be consistent. So I would say go on the smaller side at first. You can always add in additional farm areas, right?
It's funny, I used to remind like you, and for me, as a working mom, my neighborhood is 325 houses, which feels overwhelming to me, and almost more than half of them have no soliciting sign. So I haven't been as consistent with door knocking because of that here. And also just because I realize I'm really slow at it. And I'm like fixing dinner with my family, or like, when's the best time to do it?
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
How do you know half of them have no soliciting sign?
Because I've gone door knocking, and when I go up, I'm like, oh, man.
Do you think it's really half?
Well, out of the streets that I've done, yeah, I like documented it. And
Okay.
I try to knock on the ones that are high, medium scale stores, because
Yeah.
you can do that online.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've done my mailing too. But
Yeah.
again, I just haven't been consistent, and I struggle to work life now.
Yeah. I would say the no soliciting sign, yeah, I mean, obviously respect that. I still door drop to the no soliciting sign. I don't door knock. And I've found that, you know what, if you're a consistent farmer, you will meet those people because you'll probably catch them when they're driving in the driveway and what was that? Or mowing the yard, right? So you will catch those people, and I don't think anybody's going to get mad for saying hello to somebody, you know, and you could acknowledge that, hey, I respect your no soliciting sign. Great to finally be able to meet you, right? And remember, it's the 4 dimensions. You're hitting them from all different angles. They're seeing your postcard in the mail. They're getting your door dropping piece, even though they have a no soliciting sign. They're getting that. So that's 2 touches. If they're on Facebook, they're possibly seeing your brand awareness advertising that you're doing, right? If they're on Nextdoor, they're seeing you on Nextdoor, right? So there's and then events. If you're doing an event and you're advertising that event, that maybe they come up and show up at your event. So it's not a waste of time, even though there's maybe a high number of no soliciting signs. Yeah. So time to dedicate. I would say definitely consider the time it takes. Obviously, if you're depending upon the number of homes in the farm, you're going to figure out exactly how much time. Like for me, it was 110 doors a week, which meant 30 doors an hour. I kind of had an idea of how much time. So do I have the time to dedicate? And I did, and it was important to me. Now it gets pretty hot where I live. So in the summertime, I do it earlier in the day, or later in the evening. Sometimes I do it on a Saturday. I vary the time, because you want to catch people, a lot more people home on the weekends than there is during the week, right? And if you go at the same time every morning during the week, there's people that work. You're never going to see those people. And this is where Knockwise comes in, because Knockwise is very unique. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, in the presentation. But that's that app, the door knocking app that I talked about. Very unique. It allows you to keep track of who you've actually met and who you haven't. And so you can use that to focus in on the ones that you haven't met yet and making it intentional for meeting those people. Okay? So time to
What's the name of that app?
Knockwise.
Thank you.
KNOCKWISE.com. Pierre is a great guy. I can actually get him to do a Zoom meeting. And Jesse, if you want him to, he is an agent, a farmer, and he's a tech guy. So he designed this app, and it's cool. Like right in your hand, you have MLS records on the house as you're walking up to it. You could tell if it's been on the MLS in the last 3 years. The names of the people that should be there. If it's potentially an absentee owner and not the actual. So then it's a tenant. So you're not gonna approach it as if it's the owner. You're gonna approach it as if it's a tenant. So then you can toggle. The word toggle between scripts and dialogues for a tenant versus an owner, right? It also allows you to be able to very easily keep track of whether you've actually met somebody. So when you're walking up there, you can tell very quickly whether you met them before, and you can see your notes. So it's like a CRM, but specific for farming. So I'll talk more about that, but a great app. So look at the area, look at occupancy, look at turnover, Look at the average sale price. These are things that you want to take in consideration. I was at the Santa Clarita Market Center, which is the northernmost part of LA County, a little bedroom community. Our average sale price there is about 500,000. And I was doing business for many, many years, 10 years. I decided to move to Westlake Village, which is near Malibu, because I want to be near the beach. So I'm 12 minutes from the beach. And I live in Calabasas. I don't know if anybody knows that. It's we have the Kardashians, we have Bieber. I mean, I walk outside and Tito Jackson lives in my neighborhood. And yeah, he lives in this little house, broken window in the front. You know, he keeps a Harley Davidson in the foyer. Not what you think, you know, but yeah. So the reason I said that was when I moved to Westlake Village and I started farming. That's when I started farming. My average sale price in over 1 year doubled. And why do you think it doubled? Because I picked a farm, and so I started doing business. I started doing Facebook advertising in that community. And so really it's important for us to be intentional about where we want to do business. It doesn't have to be right next to where we live or right next to the office. It can be wherever we want it to be. So turnover, 4 to 6%. So if you go on Remind, it'll tell you. If you go on Dynamic Farm and you pick that area, it'll tell you. I don't know if Remind tells you. Remind, we had to go in the MLS to do that, didn't we? How many? The dominant agent and the turnover. Dynamic Farm will tell you. You don't have to go an extra step. But if you're using Remind, you have to then go draw a polygon of that same neighborhood in the MLS and do a look back of the last year. So like obviously it's February, so you could look at 2020 as a whole. How many homes sold in 2020? And then you take that number and you divide it into the total number of homes in that community, and that gives you your turnover ratio. Any questions about that? So that percentage should be 4 to 6%. The higher, the better.
You get that from Dynamic Farm?
So Dynamic Farm, when you pick your farm area, it tells you what the turnover rate is, yes.
In an app called Dynamic Farm?
It's a website. Yeah, you get that through your title rep. And they may call it something different because the different title companies brand it differently, but it's a tool that tells you like once you picked your farm, tells you when somebody got married, when somebody had a baby, when somebody got divorced, when somebody passed away. It tells you stuff about your farm like turnover ratio. It won't tell you dominant agent, which is something I'll tell you how to do. And that's basically just going into the MLS, drawing your polygon around your farm, and then saying, okay, from January 1st, 2020 to the end of January 2020, boom, how many closed units? And I would also pick active, pending, and backup on this particular search. And it's going to give you a bunch of data, okay? On the front page, the one line, you can change that, show the listing agent. Okay, so once you've got the listing agent, then you can sort that column, and it'll tell you, it'll sort all the agents together. So if Sally Solomon has 20 sales, guess what? She's farming that area. Okay, that's a dominant agent. Anybody with 3 or more sales, I would consider a dominant agent. If you see onesie twosies, which is a bunch of agents that have 1 or 2 sales, and maybe 3. I mean, I would say it's not a guarantee that the 3 sale person is farming. It could be because they had a listing in there and they did just listed postcards and they got 2 listings, right? So that would be 3. So maybe 4 or more would be a dominant agent. Any questions about that? No?
That lawyer's title had it.
Lawyer's title has Dynamic Farm? Perfect. So can you guys all hear me okay? Okay, good. So dominant agent is important. Does that mean that you shouldn't pick that farm? No? I agree. I mean, I actually went into a farm at our office at Westlake. Her name was Lydia, left our office, went to Compass, and I liked that neighborhood she was in, and I figured, you know what? Why not go after some of the competition? So take some market share from the competition. Market share would be the 20 homes that I use the example of Sally Solomon. Out of 500 homes, say 520 homes, she sold 20 in that year. So that's market share. So if you divide the number of homes Sally sold into the total number of records, you'd get Sally's market share. I think if you're truly dominating a farm, 20% or better would be dominating that farm. I've seen some examples of people getting up to 40% of the market share in that farm. So that's market share, okay? So we talked about turnover, occupancy. Occupancy is, you know, if you could pick some neighborhoods, we've probably all been in neighborhoods where there's a lot of absentee owners. You know, there's just a lot of renters in that neighborhood. Probably not the best, you know, area to pick. You know, there's lots of areas to pick. That's why about the dominant agent, if you do find a neighborhood with a dominant agent, you know, there's lots of neighborhoods out there without any agent farming. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to look at different areas.
Because I was curious, like with the absentee owners that you mail to the mailing address where they live, because like at least 20 or 30% of my neighborhood is absentee. There's a lot of renters.
Yeah, so you.
Like, it's not a good neighborhood, maybe.
Yeah, so if you do, there's always going to be some absentee owners, and so you're going to use, you know, Dynamic Farm does this as well. Scrubs for agent-owned properties. You're not going to waste your advertising mailing to an agent's home, and you're going to mail to an absentee owner differently than you would to the owner occupant, right? So you might cater your branding specific to absentee, not branding, your messaging, right, to an absentee owner differently than you would an owner. Just like there's going to be two people you're going to mail to with an absentee owner. You're going to mail to the tax record address. You're also going to mail to the house address because that's a tenant in there, right? So your messaging could be different to them. And then some people, they just mail kind of a general direct mail piece. But I think having the right call to action on that direct mail piece is important. So, but that's good point. Any questions about picking a farm? Jesse, what's your dog's name?
This is my bad boxer, Henley.
Henley.
I have a bad boxer and a good boxer.
Well, that's one thing about farming is that it's crazy how many people have dogs. And you realize that when you start farming because you go to every, you know, and some of them are realtor eating dogs. They want to eat you. So I saw that in an MLS private remarks, you know, beware of the realtor eating dog. Okay, so study your farm. Be an expert in your farm. You don't want to second guess it. You spend some time on this. It's really important. Become an expert. You know, even though you don't live that area, when you're talking to people in that, you want to talk as if you live in that neighborhood. You know, you want to know as much as you can. That means studying comps. You know, how many actives, how many pendings, how many closed, expireds. You want to door knock the expireds in that farm as soon as possible. So you want to have a system set up so that you know, and you can do this very easily. Go into your MLS, that same polygon around your farm area, and set yourself up an auto alert that alerts you when something comes on the market. And I would include expireds in there and cancel withdrawals as well, right? Now we don't door knock withdrawals, but cancel and expireds for sure. So know the different, do you guys have tracts out here? Do you guys call them tracts of homes? Like I know that California's moving to Dallas, so I see builders building big swaths of homes, right? We call those tracts. And do you guys have names for your communities out here? They have different names?
Subdivision.
Subdivision. Do they have names? Yeah.
Yes, master plan communities.
Yeah, so know those, right? Have an idea. That way you can comment, and when you're talking to people, you come off like you know something about that neighborhood. It's important. It goes a long way. HOA, we talked about, you mentioned that about the HOAs. Go to the HOA meetings if possible. Meet the president and the board members. Know about the upcoming events, projects, concerns about the neighborhood. See if there's anything that you can sponsor. Most of these HOAs would love to have a partner, in that community, but you got to approach it the right way. If you just come in and go into the Facebook group and start pitching your business and it's not allowed, you're going to step on some feet. But if you do it the right way, it can really be a powerful thing. You'll get the HOAs on your side. They actually want your help. Surrounding areas, schools, restaurants, parks, different activities. This is all stuff that, is important about being an expert in your farm. Prospecting. Ooh, that's a bad word in our business, isn't it? Prospecting. What don't you like about prospecting? You don't like picking up the phone? Is it because people hang up on you?
I just can't sit still long enough to do it.
So, okay,
I always have to be on the go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're supplementing it with farming, you're out in that community, and then it makes it not as bad, right? I have a mantra, and David's heard me say this. It's real estate is a numbers game, and you could say farming. Farming is a numbers game. It's not my job to make insane people sane, happy people happy. It is my job to find happy, smart, sane people that want to list their home with me today. So that mantra really helps with the mindset around prospecting, if you just remember that. So mindset is important, guys, in this farming game. It's a marathon. It's grueling. My daughter was a swimmer. Any swimmer kids out there?
Used to.
No? Okay. She started at 10 years old, right? I mean, swimming, and David's a cyclist. I think cyclists fall in this category as well. It is grueling. She got up to like 3 practices a day. She was doing 15,000 yards a day. And she started at 10 and ended up paying for college. She became a Division I college athlete. But it's takes a mindset. She would tell me stories about swimming, and she would sing songs in her mind. Anybody heard the story of Carol Naiad?
I know her name.
So Google, YouTube, Carol Naiad. She was an Olympian. She was a swimmer, started at the age of 10, like my daughter, and ended up going to the Olympics. She was a bronze medalist, I think, bronze or silver. She stopped swimming competitively at 30 years old, and she attempted to swim from Florida to Cuba. And she talks about her mindset. I mean, this is the kind of mindset that we have to have as realtors, if we could all master this, right? She fails, right? She almost dies from getting stung by jellyfish. And she talks about this. At 30 years old, she stops. And it haunts her entire life until she's 65 years old. She decides to do it again. And she gets back into shape. She gets a specially face guard that's clear that she can protect herself from the jellyfish, and she completes it at 65 years old. It's an amazing story.
94 miles or something like that.
That's 90-something miles. Yeah, exactly. So Carol Naiad, great story. I don't know how to spell her last name, but I'm sure you can figure that out when you put it into YouTube. But, yeah, it'll say, didn't you mean, exactly. So it's not about selling. So look, farming is not about selling. It's about coming from contribution. Okay, I do stuff with veterans and fire and police department and nurses and teachers. Same thing. It's not about selling. You're there to come from contribution, to be a resource. It's about asking questions and getting to know people. People can smell desperation. You definitely don't want to be desperate while farming. You don't want to have commission breath. Anybody had commission breath before? I've had that. Helping people, building relationships, making contacts, and adding to your database. That's what farming is. It will pay off. I would say if you didn't do a piece of business in 12 to 18 months, that's normal. I did business in the first 2 or 3 months, $30,000 commission in the first 2 months. So it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong if that hasn't happened at 2 months, right? So door knocking. quickest way to build relationships through face-to-face recognition, door knock once a week in your farm. The idea is to touch everybody in that farm once every 3 months. So you want to make it a weekly event, but you do want to put some thought into how many do I have in my farm? How many do I need to, if I'm going to knock everybody every 3 months, how many doors in order to be able to hit everybody every 3 months? Hit every door every 3 months. Totally helps you. Yeah. It tells you when you did it last, so you can keep a track, and it tells you when you're walking up to the door whether they were home last time, real quick glance. And biggest thing is it doesn't suck the battery and heat up your phone, because the data is not stored in your phone. It's stored on a server where all the ones that the title companies give you, it's on your phone, and it sucks your phone down, and it doesn't run very smoothly. Knockwise does not do that. So handouts, that's the door dropping piece. I don't know why separately there, but people respect your hustle. They do respect seeing you. Was Diana Kokoska's Little Red Wagon script? Have you ever heard about that? That's a door knocking script. She used to take her kids in her Little Red Wagon, and she would go door to door. And her script was, hey, I came out to meet you. I knew you probably wouldn't come to my office, so I came out to meet you at your office. And then that was her way into the conversation. So people respect the hustle. The next door you knock could change your life, meaning, additional revenue into your business. Consistency, timing, residence, mood swings, or residence. I think basically my thought process with that is that you catch people. We all have mood swings, right? So just because somebody was grumpy one day does not mean they're going to be grumpy the next time you knock on their door 3 months later. Okay. Anyone you speak with gets a note card in the mail with a business card or a magnet. So that's just one extra thing. If you do make a face-to-face contact, you could do an extra thing, and that could be it could be a brochure about your business. It could be a magnet. It could be something. What's great about magnets is they have a lifespan. So something that has a lifespan. No, everybody does those. You see those notepads, because those they sit around. I actually got a listing in my farm, and the lady wrote her phone number down for me on the notepad of another realtor. I was like, well, that's great. I thought that was a great compliment. We actually joked about it at her door. So you never know, but notepads are great. I'd rather have my notepad in the house than somebody else's, right? Name recognition, same color, same logo, same picture. Keep it consistent. So your branding is important, because that builds TOMA, top of mind awareness. And that's what we're trying to do here by hitting them at the door, hitting them with a dropping piece, hitting them with direct mail, hitting them with Nextdoor and Facebook and other things. We're creating TOMA, top of mind awareness. Yeah, I think that's it, right? Yeah, Facebook over and over is repeat and rinse and repeat. That's what it is. So door knocking scripts. I actually meant to pull that particular slide out of there, so I'm not sharing really any door. I've shared a couple along the way. I would say it develops more into a conversation. So having that, just something you're comfortable saying at the door. I'm out getting to know the community. I always like to hold off, and if I'm holding the door dropping piece and they come to the door, I don't give them that right away. I try to get into a conversation while I'm holding it, so they can see that I'm going to give it to them, but I intentionally don't give it to them right away. And then I ask them some questions about the neighborhood. What do you love about the neighborhood? So selling is not telling, selling is asking questions. So as far as scripts, I could say that there really is no one script. It's more of one line that gets you into that conversation that you're comfortable with. For Diana, it was the Little Red Wagon script where, I knew you wouldn't come to my office to visit me, so I came out to your office to visit you. And hold on to that marketing piece, and talk to them, ask them some questions like, hey, you know what? I work with a lot of buyers and sellers in this neighborhood, in our neighborhood. And just curious, you know, what do you love about the neighborhood that I could share with other people? You know? So open houses. Open houses is a great way to meet people in the neighborhood. You want to do open houses in your farm. If we're going to do who does open houses? You guys do open houses? We're not doing them yet in LA, back again yet. We can't do that under the health order. Anybody out there do open houses as a regular practice? Yeah? So how cool would it be to do open houses in your farm instead of just any random house in the city? Right? And so you call up the people that have listings. Maybe you don't have any listings in the farm. That's okay. Maybe during this process you have a few listings. You're obviously going to do open houses in your own listings, but the times that you don't have listings, if you I'm virtually guarantee that if you picked up the phone and called 10 agents of the 10 listings in your farm, you would find somebody that would let you do an open house in their listing. You don't have to tell them I farm this neighborhood. You don't have to tell them that. I wouldn't tell them that, actually. Just say, hey, I see you have a listing on, 4321 Cedar Street, and I'd love to do an open house this weekend. Then your open house signs should be branded to you, not the generic open house signs that you buy that just say open house, branded to you. That way people are seeing your signs in the neighborhood. That make sense? So it doesn't need to be your listings. Do what's called a mega open house. Does anybody know what a mega open house is? Or a world-class open house?
I'm not good at open houses, to be honest. I think doing them in your farm is really smart because I use big open house signs and I haven't got my branded open house signs yet. So and it's so much work and it's cold or it's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a checklist actually. You can get it on KW Connect, and it basically, what do you do on Monday? If you're doing an open house on Saturday, let's start Monday. And Monday, every day there's something you do, but you could actually separate the open house from the public and make a neighborhood invitation. So basically a special invitation for the homeowners in that community, and do it like for an hour before your public open house starts. And so you put your open house signs out on the start of the second hour, and then just basically people come, and it's a way to, because that way you can differentiate a neighbor from somebody that just drove in off your signage, right? Because remember, you want to give extra attention to the people that live in the community. Having your Knockwise app and making notes of those meetings that you met somebody at the open house, so that when you see them again, it'll jog your memory, because you're not going to remember unless you have a system for keeping track of that. And that's where that Knockwise comes in. So that's the neighbors only for the first hour. So Facebook ads. So Facebook ads and engagement or lead generation ads fall in the fourth dimension of farming, using technology to gain a competitive advantage in your farm. And that looks like you used to be able to put in a zip code, or you could even put in an address and do a radius around an address, but Facebook doesn't allow you to do that anymore. So you have to, if you have a list of the homeowners, which you do because you created a farm list to mail to, there are ways to start to accumulate email addresses and phone numbers for those people, and you do that through Prospect. Prospect Now is a data company, and you can buy the data from them very inexpensively. Prospect Now will allow you to create a list. And so what you're trying to do here is you're trying to create a custom audience. So because Facebook will allow you to import a custom audience and do an ad that would specifically go to that Facebook. Now, specifically to that group. Now, what Facebook does is Facebook looks for one of the last 5 email addresses and one of the last 5 phone numbers that a person used in their profile matches it up to your list, and if they come up with a match, they place your ad to them. And so the idea is you're trying to target the ones that live in that farm, right? The other way you could do it is you could do a 15-mile radius and make sure that your farm is in that radius. So initially, that's what you're going to start to do. But once you start to create a custom audience list, then you're going to shift from a radius ad into an audience ad. And I know I'm getting a little techie for you. Did that just for you. But when you're running Facebook, there's two types of Facebook. There's engagement, and then there's lead generation. I'm not sure if anybody has an idea what the difference is, but I'll share it with you. So a Facebook lead generation ad is where they're actually seeing a targeted ad with a property or a call to action, and you can target. These are people you don't know, you're not friends with. These are people that are based upon your audience that you created, or the ad, a radius around a zip code. Okay, engagement is looking for clicks, shares, likes, comments. That's an engagement ad. That's what the intention of that is. They're cheaper to run, and you're not trying to get their information. You're trying to get them to engage with you. Okay, that's an engagement ad. So it's clickbait, basically. A lead generation ad is a little different. A lead generation ad is where the intention is for them to click the button and actually submit their information to you. So you want to run both, okay? The lead generation ads are a little bit more expensive, but they're a way for you to build that database of your farm, adding their actual contact information in. And it also it's like them raising their hand saying, hey, I'm interested for some reason. Maybe I'm thinking about making a move, or maybe I have a friend that wants to move into my neighborhood because they come over to my great parties all the time and they just love my neighborhood and they want to move into my neighborhood. So I have a referral. So who knows what the reason is? So that's the creating a custom audience from the data that you have that you're building, so you're going to get as much data as you can. Maybe you buy data from a data company like Exact Data. So it's exactdata.com. They're pretty reasonable. I've used them to buy data from. So I bought a zip code, which include my farm area, because they only sell by zip code. I think it was $500. And I bought a whole zip code of data, 9,000 names, and about 50% of those had email addresses and phone numbers. So that's one way that I build up my farm area. Okay. Any questions?
That information that you bought scrubbed for do not contact?
Yeah, so you can toggle, you can tell the data company I want do not call, or I do not want do not call. Gotcha. Yeah. And definitely recommend following, your office policies and the national law on the do not call list. Now, if they click on an ad, they're opting in. So you can call those people, even if they're on the do not call list. Yeah. So use your command landing pages. So the neighborhood landing page is a great way to once you have their email address and you know where they live, then you can start, using the command landing page. Capture lead traffic and drive traffic to open houses. I use Facebook and engagement ads. Have you ever seen boost? An engagement ad is what you're doing.
What do you mean a boost?
Well, on Facebook, it's sometimes when you post something, it gives you the option to boost it. I don't know if you've ever seen that on Facebook. If you do that, that's Facebook's way of enticing you to become an advertiser. So it's like the easiest way. You pay for it. They have a little wizard that makes it really easy to create a boosted post. It starts with you posting something. Maybe you post you farming, or a video of you in the park in that community. So you post that, and then you can boost it based upon certain criteria. So like the radius would be one of those target market. So the people that are in your farm area would see it potentially. So create a page So Facebook community page, we talked a little bit about that. You could create a community page and make it closed to just the people that live in that community. And as you're out door knocking and talking to people in the community, you're inviting them to the page. And that's how you build it up. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but a community page. And if they already have a community page, and it's open to anybody, you don't have to live in the neighborhood to be part of it, then I would suggest joining that, but make sure you pay attention to the rules. That's a great place for event announcements and potentially listings, new listings that are in the neighborhood, whether they're your listings or not. Events. So we talked a bit about events. There's my ice cream truck idea. I've done food drives, clothing drives, sock drives, holiday boutique. Anybody heard of Michael Mayer? Michael Mayer is, have you ever heard the book, 7 Levels of Communication? Okay, he wrote the book. Michael Mayer is the author. He's a Keller Williams agent. He's he claims to be the most referred agent in the company with over 500 referrals. I coached with him for a year. It's very robust. His model, which the 7 levels of communication, is a very robust model. But it works great with farming because the networking concepts that are in that book, as well as the event, client appreciation type events, work well with a farm. So that's his website there if you want to check it out. I coached with him for a year and I brought a lot of that stuff over. So technology, here's some of the pieces that I've kind of mentioned already. Knockwise, what haven't I already told you about Knockwise. So when you're using Knockwise, if you come to a house and you've door knocked the farm now 3 or 4 or 5 times, so you've done all your homes at least 3 or 4 or 5 times, you're going to start to see some trends when you use Knockwise. You're going to be able to tell, hey, I knocked on this door 5 times, and none of the 5 times this person's home. And so what you can then do is, just like the MLS, you can filter a search, and you can go back to your office, pull up Knockwise on the desktop, and say, show me a list of everybody that in the farm that I haven't spoken to before. And you can take that list and specifically go back and door knock the ones you haven't spoken to. That's a great tool. I think the MLS, the fact that it's connected to the MLS, it's also connected to your GPS location in your phone. So it makes it really easy for, like, I started here today and I stopped on this street right here at this corner. And then I started the next day I door knocked, I need to come back to this spot and go to the people they do this in varying different ways. They use a walking farm book, which is something you get from your title rep. And it's a physical book that has all the addresses laid out by APN number. And literally on one page, you have one side of the street. On the other page, you have the other side of the street. One house, you're not going to go. So it's called a walking farm book. Well, Pierre's app is laid out the same way. So you can say, I'm on the odds. You can just hit a button that says odds. It's only going to show you the odd addresses, and you can go from one to the other. And it has a little button that you just hit if somebody's home, or if somebody's not home. And then, like I said, when you go in there, and let's say you do meet somebody, as you're walking away from the house. So I walked out, I just talked to John Smith, and I'm walking to the next house. You hit the little microphone, and you could speak into it as you're walking. I just talked to John. He has 3 kids. He moved into the house a year ago. He's not planning on moving for another couple of years. You can just speak all that into it and then hit save and go to the next house. And already you've got the next house open in front of you with who the owner is, whether they're an absentee potential owner or whether you met them before, and all your notes are right there. So it's really super, super easy to use. And it's like if you go to Knockwise and you register, I don't have a promo code, but if you call him first and let him know you were in my class, I think he'll take like $50 or $60 off of the price. It's like $197 or $297 a year for the subscription. It's pretty cheap.
And I assume his information's on the webpage.
Yeah, it's on the website, knockwise.com. Yeah, Pierre is the owner of the company. So Facebook lead ads is another, we talked about that already. That's another technology that you're going to use. Okay. Nextdoor, we brought that up already and talked about Nextdoor. Business.nextdoor.com is where you register to become a business sponsor in a neighborhood. You don't have to live in the neighborhood to be a business sponsor. Exact Data, we talked about Exact Data. That's one of the data providers that I use. Prospect Now is another data provider that I use. Dynamic Farm or equivalent. So when you talk to your title rep, if you call it Dynamic Farm, they're going to know what you're talking about, whether they have it or not. They have something like it. So you don't have to change title companies just to get. It doesn't have to be Dynamic Farm. They all have something. Breakthrough Broker, I don't have that on here. Breakthrough Broker is something you can also get from your title rep, and it's got loads and loads of marketing ideas. So if you don't know what do I put into my direct mail piece, what call to action or copy, like I'm not very creative, so I need help in that area. Jesse, do you guys have a marketing person or?
Yeah, actually, Amy Vega at Title Resources, y'all, Amy Henshaw at Title Resources, and your title reps, they really are, you said it, the best people to go to. Amy she has a long list of services like this. And so call Amy or get with Michelle next door.
Perfect. Yeah. So if you need help in getting with your title person or whoever gives you this information will also probably have a marketing person that can help you create the call to action. So if you're going to do a call to action to absentee owners, you're going to do a call to action to your tenants, and then one separate to the actual homeowners, they'll help you create all that content. And some people do a combination of like they'll do once a quarter, they'll do a market update, which will include, active pendings and solds in the in that farm. They do that once a quarter, and then the other 3, they do a call to action. Like it's not, or if you get a listing, obviously you're going to want to do it just listed to your entire farm. When it sells, a just sold to your entire farm. But when you don't have a listing in there, 3 of those weeks out of the quarter, you're going to want to do some sort of a call to action. So reasons why a homeowner, would want to sell. You also could bring your lender in and incorporate and do a joint marketing piece and have them be responsible for all the, the quoting the interest rate. So if it's got both of you on there, got your lender contact information, and it's quoting stuff about interest rates, you can control whether that lead, picks up the phone and calls the lender, then your lender will tell you, hey, so-and-so from your farm called on that marketing piece. And now you've got the contact information likely for that person, and you add it to your database. And then you add them to your Facebook custom audience. And then that way you can make sure that they're seeing your ads, because Facebook will place the ad up to them. So listings to leads is a great one. Anybody use listings to leads now? Is like super cheap. It's $40 a month. And you can, it works a lot like what we have in Command. It does low cost Facebook advertising. It integrates with your CRM. You could do a lot of what Listings to Leads does in Command. What I like about Listings to Leads is that, like I said, I'm not creative. So for me, coming up with the copy and what to say, it just does all that. Literally, I hit a button and it does all that. And then you can copy and paste that content into your command. If you want to run ads and campaigns, you could do it that way. But, command also gives you some verbiage, like it tells you what, try this, and it says something about the listing. It's not as robust as listings to leads yet, but eventually it will be. But in the meantime, you can get it really simple by having listings to leads. It also sends you an email. They have a Farm Dominator tool in there. And the Farm Dominator tool allows you to, it tells you, hey, there's a new listing in your farm. And you can call up the agent and say, hey, I'd like to throw some extra marketing dollars at your listing. Do you mind if I run some Facebook ads using your listing? 9 out of 10 agents are going to tell you go for it. Okay. Personally, the IDX agreement that we all sign as the MLS, as long as they get listing credit, if you say this listing's provided by, check with your MLS, but that's how it is in our area, is that you don't necessarily need permission, but it's obviously a great practice to get permission. But the thing is you want to be running Facebook ads on any listing that's in your farm, not just your listings. You want to make attention to run some advertising on these other listings. That way people are seeing your branding with the listing, even though it's not your listing. You do this long enough and it's going to pay dividends. And listings to leads makes it super easy to do all that. It also has a cool feature where you just hit a button that sends an email to your seller. You put in your seller's name and their email address, and it sends an email, and it gives them all of the things that they just literally have to copy and paste into their social media and hit send and post. And so they end up posting your landing page, and then it gets shared, and it just goes like that. So makes it super easy. Any questions about any of that? Oh, actually, use code Keller. I did. So on Knockwise, if you use code Keller, you'll get that discount. I forgot I put that in there. So direct mail. Here's some of the resources for the direct mail dimension of the 4 dimensions. So Core Fact. We haven't talked about Core Fact. Anybody heard of Core Fact? No? So this is taking your direct mail postcard to a whole nother level. And what it does is Core Fact, and there's Listing Grabber does this as well. It puts a unique identifier, a URL, so a website basically, on every piece. So every homeowner gets a unique URL. And so what this does is when you mail that farming card to them, and basically the call to action might be, 1 month might be, check to see what your home is worth. It might be, hey, great, get a list of energy improving things that you can do that will actually make your home value increase. And when they click on that, now the website captures their information. So and then you get a lead notification that so-and-so from your farm went to that landing page. So if you had an idea, and this is something Dynamic Farm does as well as, tries to anticipate who's thinking about selling. So if you had 500 homes in your farm and you got notification that 20 of them went to that landing page, do you think you should go back and make sure you door knock those particular homeowners, right? So the Core Fact, that unique URL is super important. There's another company which I need to update my list, and it's called, oh man, Zach from, hold on one second. I got to tell you this because it's something that I checked out. I actually interviewed the company, and I'm going to probably utilize it in my farm. And it's the name is escaping me. Jake from State Farm. No, it was not Jake from State Farm. That was good though. Postcard Mania. Postcard Mania. Postcard Mania is a national mailing house. They don't just specialize in real estate. They are a direct mail specialist. And they use the same unique URL that Corfac does, but they take it to a whole nother level and they tie in a total of 7 channels. So when you, it's a bit more expensive, but when you do this, they're getting your direct mail piece, but they're also getting, and I don't know how they do it, but they're getting Google AdWords is one of the channels. So when they go on and they go to Google, you see the advertising on the banner? Those are called banner ads. The homeowners in your farm are going to see banner ads that are branded to you. They're going to get sorry about that. They're going to get Google other advertising in other places in Google. But there's 7 different channels that they tie in to your farming card. So it kind of all works together. So Postcard Mania is one that I would check out. SmartZip. Okay, so SmartZip, these guys work a little differently. These are farming tools. You load in your farm, the geographic area of your farm, and it tells you who's the most predicted to sell. And the way it does this is they have varying amount of metrics that they look at, but they're actually buying data from Home Depot and from Kids R Us. And so there's different metrics, and I don't even know if Kids R Us or like Toys R Us are around anymore. I think about our business, I think they did. But they have different stores, buying habits, credit reports, all sorts of big data that they buy from. And then they match that data up to your farm. And they tell you, hey, this guy over here, he's likely to sell. So it gives you a competitive advantage. I guarantee you, most of the agents are not doing this extra research. It's a little bit stalking. It's kind of like stalking, but in a good way, right? So that you know to go have make sure you get in front of that person and have a conversation. Yeah. Yeah. There's also a couple tools which I don't have on here called Skip Genie. And anybody heard of Spokio? You know what made Spokio famous? Catfish. The show Catfish made Spokio famous. I use Spokio. It's a pretty good one. Skip Genie is good. That's them. So THATS them.com is a free one. But these are tools you have to go in one by one and put in the address. If you have an email address of the person, put in the email address, and it'll do a skip trace on that person. And this is how you build your list so that you're getting all the contact information of your farm.
What's the skip trace for?
It's to find out what email addresses and phone numbers are associated to an address or a person. You can use this for your entire database. Yeah. I have an ISA on my team, our team, and he goes through. So let's say I run a Facebook ad and David gets the lead, okay, but the phone number's bad. We just don't throw that out. We actually go to Skip Genie and Spokio, and my ISA skip traces comes up with 3 or 4 extra addresses email addresses and phone numbers, and then David kicks it back to David, and David calls them, or he'll call them. So, any questions about any of that? No? Okay, so Prospect Now and SmartZip don't. So SmartZip, you pay them a monthly fee, and they use digital marketing to target your farm, and they use their big data to predict who's going to sell, and they give you a platform, and they tell you, and they basically, it's not direct mail, but it's digital media, and they do the same thing. So a couple people mentioned digital marketing. Was it Johanna? You guys are digital marketing. Are you using SmartZip or a tool like it?
No, we are all organic, and so we no.
We're delving into automation.
We are fully on board on everything. We just are not automating anything, and so this is why we're here. We're like, how do we automate this?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I couldn't hear that last part.
I said, I'm not going to lie. I'm chatting with the lady from Postcard Mania right now.
Well, great. And they're actually the one I'm going to pull the trigger on probably and go and do my farming, my mail, direct mail with. They're a little bit more expensive, but 7 channels is pretty amazing. I couldn't find anybody else that does that. So Smart Zip is not cheap either. Prospect Now is a little bit more affordable. They have a monthly fee, a month-to-month program that you can get on. But if you, Jesse, is there anybody that's not part of KW Commercial here in the office? Because KW Commercial, you get a free free Prospect Now account. So if you seek out the commercial guy, maybe he'll be nice enough to let you check out Prospect Now, and you could pull the data down on your farm and just go back to him, maybe buy him lunch once a quarter and just do it that way.
He the second Tuesday of the month, Chris Rosberg runs his commercial committee, and I'm sure that that's a topic he would love to cover and help you guys with.
Perfect. Yeah. If you're giving him a commercial referrals, I'm sure he'll help, let you use his Prospect Now account. So new listings, call to action, mention neighborhood Facebook, tie your neighborhood Facebook page into your advertising, whether it's your social media advertising or whether your direct mail piece, tie that in. Well, you put it in the copies. It's got to be designed into the direct mail piece. That's something for your marketing person that's going to help you design that piece. You do this once a month, so it's not something you're going to have to do every day. Like maybe if your goal is to do the direct mail piece on the 7th of the month, so maybe on the 1st of the month, you have a meeting with your marketing person and you sit down and you come up with whatever the brand, whatever the call to action or the copy, what they call copy, of whether it's going to be market data or 7 reasons why you should sell your home today, or 7 reasons why sellers are selling today because of all the people that are moving from California, and they're getting top dollar, or what, like we were looking up yesterday, what the average appreciation year over year in Dallas is. Anybody know?
It's gone through the roof.
It's definitely gone up, right? I think it was 21% this year compared to last year, right, in Dallas. So that's stuff that you want to educate. That's the value you bring to your people through your direct mail piece and your advertising. Okay, case study. So I'm not just saying that all this stuff works. There's actually people that are doing this. This is the gal in my old office up in Santa Clarita. She's a single mom. She was licensed since 2005. She's a full-time realtor, consistently farming for 3 years. Her community is the North Lake section of Castaic, which is north part of LA County. 279 homes in her farm. That consists of 3 tracts called Wildwood, Ridgewood, and Cedar Point. Now, does it look like she did some research on her farm? This is the kind of thing she knows her numbers in her farm. Okay, 86% sellers. The business in that farm, kind of like a market snapshot, was 86% sellers, 14% buyers, and after 3 years, 19.7% of the market share. And that number actually, this is about a year old. I think that she told me that 25% now. 33% of the business came from her farm, 46% past clients, and 21% from expireds. So there was 49 homes total in her farm that she sold. That's not 1 year. That's total in the 3 years, 49 homes. Who wants an extra 49 homes over the next 3 years? Huh? Any hands? I can't see all those people that don't have their cameras on. Okay, so 49 homes, door knocked once a week, average about 30 to 34 doors per hour. And I can't see what that says under my thing here. Oh, sent out a piece of mail once a month, hosted 2 events a year, posted once a week in the Facebook page. There's her recipe, what she did. And I even have for you This is one of the pieces that she did, one of the marketing pieces. So when I say copy or the content of the media, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, what's it going to say? What message are you trying to convey? Who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to an absentee owner? Or are you speaking to a homeowner? Are you speaking to somebody that just had a baby? Because that could be something you could, like I do reverse mortgage. Everybody knows what a reverse mortgage is? So there's a Title Pro 247. You can talk to your title rep. It's a tool. It's the only tool I'm aware of that actually lets you target based upon age, because that's a little gray area. Yeah, because you're not supposed to, I mean, I don't know, some of the title companies says you're not supposed to do that, but this particular title company lets you put your farm area in and put an age demographic and come up with a list of everybody that's above the age of 60. They're a perfect candidate for reverse mortgage. There's a group out of California called Reverse Mortgage Educators. They have a whole program on educating yourself about reverse mortgage. And then they'll even give you the marketing pieces to send to the reverse mortgage people that are in your group. In my 1100, I think there was 288 people that fit that demographic. So that's just one extra piece of mail. I'm not talking about, like, that could be the one I do each month, during the month, or it could be I do a regular piece to the whole farm and then I do an extra mailing to those 288. It would be just like if I had a just listed, I would do, a just listed postcard around that just listed, or I would do it to my whole farm. So this is hers. This is Tracy. Tracy Tofty is her name. She sold over 20 million in that community. And she puts on a map all the ones that she sold. And she lists the addresses of all the ones she sold. Now, let's say you're just starting out. You could do this by just looking up how many were sold in that neighborhood that were sold by Keller Williams. And you could craft the language to use Keller Williams instead of me. Right?
We're on the same team.
Yeah, we're all on the same team, exactly. So that's an example of that. And like I said, if you guys want this presentation, which has all these pieces in it, just shoot me an email. I'm pretty sure that my contact information should be in the notes there. Just email me and I'll send it to you. So this is an example of one of her pieces. This is her just sold piece. This goes on a farming card, and on the back, it probably has a little bit more information. This could have been on a door drop piece, on an 8.5 by 11 door drop piece, glossy paper. And that's what she handed out. Talks about just sold. It has all her brandings. You can see how it's consistent. The branding is consistent between pieces. Here's another example of something that she did. And again, if your title people have marketing people, they will help you come up with the content. Don't not do it because, oh my God, I don't know what to put on the content.
Who will help put that together?
There's marketing people that your title people could probably refer you to. And Jesse mentioned a few people. I'm sure there's other marketing people. Michael Lewis Marketing Suite is one that you could go to. Is that what you're going to say, Jesse?
I was going to mention we use Scott Leroy. It's just slm.com. Our login is our market center number 87. There's a ton of resources right under free stuff.
Yeah. And Michael Lewis Marketing Suite, I believe your market center doesn't have to be part of them. You can get your own individual membership now with Michael Lewis Marketing Suite. And Michael Lewis Marketing Suite has a ton of farming pre-created content that you can all you have to do is it's templated. This is her Thanksgiving, Happy Thanksgiving pie event. Every year, she does, limited supplies last. She buys because she's been doing this now for several years, so she has an idea how many people show up for a free pie. She sets up an Easy Up in the community, and for a couple hours, she hands out pies. And she does it every Thanksgiving, and really simple, and she has a budget set for advance how much she's going to spend on pies. And you get to set that budget, and all you have to do is put limited supplies. Come while supplies last. And that way you open it up for a certain period of time. And if you run out of pies, you're done. You don't have to. So people think, oh my God, I'm going to spend $1,000 on pies. Well, you don't have to spend $1,000 on pies. If you want to spend $1,000 on pies, you could. You might have a bunch of leftover pies though. You don't. Then you got to go to the homeless shelter and give the pies away. So there's lots you can do with those. But that's just one example of what she does for the pie event. This is her annual event that she does where it's like bouncy house and taco truck and all the stuff I told you about. You can, contact these trucks are all individual business owners. Sometimes there's a company that owns multiple trucks, but you can schedule a party and that truck will pull up and serve food. They have a permit to do that. So does anybody recognize Tracy? Anybody seen the show Mr. Belvedere? That's Tracy. That's Tracy Wells from Mr. Belvedere. Mr. Belvedere. She was a child actor. She's a good friend of mine.
Oh my God, that was my favorite show. And she's a friend? Okay, we'll talk. We'll talk after.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, Johanna just said we're old. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the gray hair. Right here, the gray hair. So here she created a bunco club in her community. So she has a card night where a bunch of the women come and they play cards. Is it cards? Bunco's not cards, it's dice. Yeah. But she does this. And I can't remember how many people she says that come. She lives in the community, yeah. But you don't have to live in the community. But yeah, but maybe you get somebody, if you don't live in the community, maybe you meet somebody, get close enough that like you could say, hey, I want to start a bunco club in the community here. Would you be open to hosting that or something like that? But yeah, she does live in this. She does live in one of the 3 communities she farms. So don't take your foot off the gas. Consistency is key. Commitment takes commitment. Don't worry about agents in your farm. Be aware of the surroundings, the public. When you're in that farm, fast in the neighborhood and flipping people off, probably not the best thing to do, right? If this is your farm. Not that I do that. Sales statistics. Anybody seen this chart before? So 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. So follow-up is really key with farming. You have to be, you're going to meet people at the door. You got to follow up with the note card, the handwritten note, which David and I talked about that yet. He's been really good about doing that. I'm not so good about doing that, but you got to do that part, okay? Because it's the follow-up is the gold is in the follow-up, and this is actual sales statistics. This has been around for years, but 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% of the people make a second contact and then they stop. 12% of the people make 3 contacts and stop. Only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. And what's interesting about the bottom half of this is 2% of sales are made on the first contact. So 48% of people never follow up. 25% only make 1 contact, but only 2% of people buy. 3% on the second, only 3% of people buy on the second, 5% on the third, 10% take 12 or more contacts. So this is the whole, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Okay, so if you make contact with people over time, Gary Keller in the MREA says for every 50 people in your farm, if you create TOMA and you saturate that, it might take you 2 or 3 years to saturate it, but when you get to saturation, for every 50 people is 1 piece of business in your business over a 12-month period. So if you, what's 50 into 500? Come on, math guy.
10.
Right. So that's 10 pieces of business every 12 months. 10 additional pieces of business. Who wants 10 additional pieces of business? Only 2 hands. Who knows Michael Phelps? So I love swimmers. Obviously, I had a daughter swimmer. I mean, this guy, look, is he killing this guy or is he just edging him out? He's just edging him out. That's all. This is just a slight advantage. Any questions? I'm done.
Do we get one of your business cards?
Sure. Yep.
Please, thank you.
Tell me what you think of my business card.
Thanks for all the sites and references.
I got a business card coming from you, by the way. This is what it looks like. Any questions by anybody? You got some questions in the chat? Let me see if.
This was Sean, this was a ton of awesome information. I'm gonna go. I have to run and go cough somewhere. And thank you so much. I'm gonna put my notes in the Facebook group. Sean, I'm not sure if we added you to the a private Facebook group yet, but I'll do that as well. Thank you so much. You guys turn on your mics and show them some love and appreciation. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Sean.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. What questions do we got in here? Let's see here.
When are you coming back to town?
This is a lot of info. I'm like, oh my God, where do I start?
Sure. So the question was, what's the first step as a new agent? I think the first step is identifying the farm or just actually making the commitment to do it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about, because Tracy, the case study I gave you, she actually doesn't do all 4 dimensions. I didn't tell you that. She's hitting 3 out of the 4. She doesn't do a lot of technology other than a Facebook page. She doesn't do Facebook ads. She's not using a lot of the tech that I gave you. She's not using any of that. She's not using SmartZip or Postcard Mania or Prospect Now or Knockwise even. So, but she's getting 20% of the market share, right? So I would say make the commitment is the first step, and then pick your farm.
Jason.
Don't, spend some time on picking your farm, but don't get paralysis by analysis. Okay. So what other question? Copy of slides, we handled that one. Yeah. Yeah, so he knows how to look it up. He knows how to use, he shared Remind actually. I didn't even realize that we had Remind as a member benefit in the MLS, which is a tool that you would use, but it doesn't do everything, but it does most of it, what you need. So, oh, shoot. Did somebody have a question on the Zoom?
We were just asking when you're going to be in town again. We'd like to go to lunch with you soon.
Sure. My commitment is to be here once a quarter. So probably in the next 3 months, I'll be back and I'll let Jesse know.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll meet. We'll bring David along. Be awesome.
David, you know where to find him.
We do. We had coffee and breakfast with David yesterday. It was awesome.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. He's good. He's good people.
He is. So I'm having a hard time here for, okay.
Don't tell him. We'll be a big head.
Let's see here. All right. Tract homes, absentee owners. We talked about that question. Mail to investors who may or may not need to buy or sell a house. Jesse said, or Melissa Day said that. Is Melissa still on? No, I don't think so. Okay. Other question, where do you get dynamic farm? From your title rep, lawyer's title offers dynamic farm. The other ones offer some sort. Next door, we talked about that. I think that's it. Cool. Any other questions? No? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I think we're good.
I said those vows. My first wife is Filipino. I found out after 19 years of marriage, 20 minutes before I signed my final divorce paperwork that I wasn't married.
What?
It never got recorded.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, guys, thanks. We'll hope to see you around the office.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Perfect.